This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, this is true. I'm beyond that one.
Yeah. Just that last kiss.
Here's what you can
My daughter's supposed to
call and,
Oh, don't you hate that?
Yeah.
You know what's
Bill,
worse?
Bill.
Is I had one
Bill,
turn down
Bill.
a full ride scholarship to a school to go to another school. Well, it was Tulane. She said full ride scholarship to Tulane, and she said New Orleans is based in.
Good evening, let's start because I'm a start on time guy. Let's call to order the North Front Range Transportation Air Quality Planning Council for December 7, 2023. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Let's open the meeting for public comment. We'd like to open our meeting for comments from the public on things that are on or otherwise not on our agenda. 2 minutes for your public comment. Any takers this evening of public comment? Takers? Nope. Nobody online? Okay. Let's move on then to acceptance of the meeting agenda. Hopefully you review the agenda. If there are no amendments, Chair will entertain a motion to accept it. So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2 is the approval of minutes. So these are the lead planning agency for air quality NPO minutes from November 2, 2023. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those minutes. Are there any additions or corrections, please?
Well, I think my name is misspelled in them.
You think?
You think?
I mean-
Are you unsure?
Here's the deal, I know they were misspelled in the upper front range, and yes, they are all, I wanted to double check.
All right. Very good.
Come on, give me more credit than that. My first name is misspelled on voting member absent, so that would probably be the only time it's misspelled. 'Cause I was absent, yeah.
For that meeting.
All right. With the correction of the commissioner's name, are there any other what do they call them? Changes. Well, I am gonna lose my mind on my last meeting.
No, you're
Any
not.
other changes to the agenda, please? If not, Chair would entertain a motion to accept it. Or not the agenda, I'm sorry, the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes. Further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. It's the lead planning agency for air quality agenda. Under reports, the Air Pollution Control Division report is a handout in your packet. Regional Air Quality Council, the RAC, report is a handout and in your packet. The NFRMPO Air Quality Program Updates is a handout and in your packet. Nope. Is she?
Talk online?
Dina?
Yes.
Hi, Dina.
My new favorite.
Dina, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Becky.
me?
Hi, Dina.
Can you hear me?
Jessica
Yes, we can.
So do you want me to go before Jessica?
Oh, Jessica's also online.
Okay. Oh, okay, Jessica's online.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dina. Let's go pause and go back to Jessica then. Jessica, please.
Hi, how are you all? Well, I'll be brief
Very good.
today. To speak to some of the topics that are in the written update that we provided this month, we at the division are continuing to implement the air toxics bill that was passed by the legislation in 2022. This includes standing up some of our air toxics monitors. These will be the first 3 of 6 total monitors that will be monitoring across the state. Complementing those efforts, we are also initiating a scientific panel to support our identification of priority toxic air contaminants and the establishment of health-based standards for those contaminants. We are also actively seeking feedback on our draft 2023 greenhouse gas inventory. And there's links and email addresses in the written update we provided for folks to review and provide feedback. And similarly, we are working on our greenhouse gas verification intensity protocol and are hosting public meetings for that in January. And there's information for registering again in that written update. Moving on, the Air Quality Control Commission has been quite busy. They held a November commission meeting and heard a number of updates on various topics, including the greenhouse gas roadmap, updates on the oil and gas midstream greenhouse gas reduction efforts, an update on nuclear energy, as well as Title V permitting issues. At our December meeting, which I believe Dina has more detail on as well for you all, the commission will be having two rulemakings, one focused on lawn and garden regulations to reduce emissions from the use of lawn and garden equipment in commercial operations, along with approval of the Ozone State Implementation Plan and accompanying regulations. Some of those regulations include proposals to reduce emissions from stationary engines statewide, as well as regulations for the use of equipment in oil and gas drilling and completion operations. I'm happy to answer any questions, or I can hand it over to Dina. Thanks.
Questions for Jessica, please? Jessica, thank you. Dina, now, please.
All right, can you hear me again?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. So in November, the North Front Range NPO staff met with EPA Region 8 Administrator Becker and her staff in response to the October 11th letter that you sent to the EPA Administrator Regan. That meeting was positive. Region 8 recognized that the Intermountain West does experience higher background ozone levels, and that emission levels in the Intermountain West have been exacerbated by wildfires in recent years. And while Region 8 staff were interested in other Intermountain West entities that had similar concerns, as well as others that might be submitting similar letters, they really didn't have any new recommendations beyond the use of existing Clean Air Act provisions to address them. They made reference to a 2016 conference with materials related to that and existing Clean Air Act provisions related to exceptional events and international contributions. And then they also referenced their 2023 Good Neighbor Rule, but they also admitted that because of the court challenges, that any benefits that you might get as a result of that Good Neighbor Rule are going to be delayed. So again, it was a positive meeting with no new recommendations on how to address the issue. Moving on, is there a question?
No, but Dina, I'll add one thing into that conversation, is they are looking at how to streamline the process a little bit for the exceptional events to make it easier to file an exceptional event. So that was one thing that they are working on.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So also at a November Air and Waste Management Conference, I was able to talk to Ramble a little bit about some of the updated modeling that had been done in terms of ozone levels that we might see in the future. And the good news that came out of that is that, you know, the percent contributions that we have been referencing in our concerns over background and the broader non-local controllable emission sources the 2023 modeling data outputs align with what they saw in the 2021. So again, that just affirms the data that we've been referencing, and so that was good news. Regarding the lawn and garden rulemaking that you just heard Jessica mentioned, that's before the commission here, or the Air Quality Control Commission here in December. Recall that there are two proposals that are being considered, one put forth by the Air Division and one being put forth by the Regional Air Quality Council. Both of those petitioners have basically revised their proposals, and to some extent they do answer a lot of the questions or the concerns that you raised in your letter that you submitted to the Air Quality Control Commission. So that's good news. They both broadened their applicability. So they added clarity, but they also broadened who might be subject to either proposal. And so there were some revisions by the Air Division that basically goes beyond municipality and government and county governments to also apply to local governments, which is meant to include municipal governments, county governments, city and county governments, special districts, and public school districts, in addition to state government. The RAC also added clarity to their proposal by specifying that lawn and garden maintenance at places including golf courses, parks, cemeteries, office parks, homes, buildings, and roadways are also subject to their proposal. So they added clarity that does help, but they did in some ways it seemed like broaden the applicability. The RAC is also providing an exemption for those public entities that are in existing contractual agreements with third parties that are providing that lawn and garden maintenance. And so in those instances, they can delay compliance if they need to, from June of 2025 to June of 2026. But at that point, all entities become subject. The RAC also revised their record keeping retention requirements that go beyond now what was the 5-year proposed timeframe, and clarified that public entities were responsible to maintain required records for their contractors. So again, they added some clarity around that question as to who is subject to these rules. And so those public entities are subject directly, as well as any of their third-party contractors. The RAC also recognized that 100% compliance may not be feasible, and so they added some language to that extent. But they also required some additional record keeping in those instances to make sure that subject entities were keeping records of when those lawn and garden equipment were being used during the summer months in the non-attainment area. Yeah. So moving on to the ozone SIP and associated regulations rulemaking that's before the commission also in December. The division's proposal related to NOx emissions from engines and turbines seems to have been the most controversial element of the proposal. The proposal includes a NOx intensity element that really goes to address the governor's directive of reducing 30% NOx from upstream oil and gas operations by 2025. So it's really focusing on reducing NOx. There is this element that's specific to oil and gas, but there is, like Jessica mentioned, there's a statewide element that goes beyond the oil and gas sector that's also going to secure additional reductions. I do want to mention, though, that it seems like, or the division's rebuttal mentioned that modeling suggests that a 30% reduction in NOx in 2025 from upstream oil and gas operations may translate to a reduction of roughly 1 to 2 parts per billion at the Fort Collins West ozone monitor. So I thought that was interesting. So in addition to paying attention and listening into the commission's meeting here in December, which begins next week on the 12th, and I believe goes through Friday the 15th. In addition to that, the Colorado Legislative Interim Committee on Air Quality is set to meet tomorrow, I believe now at 10 o'clock. And according to the agenda that just came out today, it seems like they are going to share insights on proposed policy in light of the upcoming 2024 legislative session. So that is going to be another meeting to watch. So with that, that kind of wraps up my report. Are there any questions or comments?
Please, Commissioner.
So with the lawn and garden maintenance, how will the state be monitoring that? Because I agree it provides clarity in kind of adding the special districts and stuff like that, and that's something that, you know, we were kind of unsure what they meant when they just said local government. But now a lot more people have to comply. And people who don't even realize kind of, you know, I mean, some special districts, I mean, you know, their lawn and maintenance might be fairly insignificant, but still, I mean, they have to do that. So who's going to be checking that many? I mean, how many special districts do we have in the state? I mean, hundreds and hundreds. In addition to, you know, how many? Well, I mean, I guess it's not the whole state. It's just the non-attainment area. So.
And Dina, if I'm remembering this correctly, that is out of the RAC's proposal, but not out of the APCD's proposal. Is that correct? They're different in that, correct?
The division's proposal seems to be more narrow than the RAC's, but I would suggest while you have Jessica here, maybe she can provide some ideas about how the division envisions implementing their own. I mean, I can tell you what I've read in some of the documentation, but she might have better information than I.
Yeah, hi, can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah. Our intention is for us to be enforcing this through the record keeping and reporting provisions. So our record keeping reporting requirements will have the different districts or local governments either report what equipment they are using, what equipment they may be using that still needs to be gas powered, and if they subcontract out, who they contract out to. And it'll be through reviewing those records that we will be enforcing this requirement, fully understanding that the first couple of years will take some time for full implementation. So we wouldn't be focusing on strict hard enforcement those first couple of years, more focused on outreach and engagement to kind of ensure that we are setting people up for successful compliance.
Do you envision any kind of waiver program that would waive, like, if everybody's trying to get this electric equipment, it may, you know, there may be supply chain issues or, you know, kind of other issues that may, you know, like sort of emergency kind of situations where a tree's about to fall down, or I don't know. And do you envision any kind of waiver process for circumstances kind of beyond our control?
Yeah, so I'll point to a few things. First, we do have exemptions for anything related to public safety, some certain types of like wetland riparian, noxious weed management, etc., and wildfire mitigation and cleanup efforts. So we do have exemptions for those types of emergency situations built in. Broader scale waivers, those aren't something that we're currently contemplating in our rule, but would be happy to further discuss with folks offline the specifics of such interest.
Thank you.
So that public safety exemption would exempt fire districts from having to turn in their lawnmower inventory report. Just curious.
Yeah, I would have to get a little more into the specifics of what type of equipment the fire districts would be using, but I imagine anything used to support the actual fighting of fires would be exempt.
Well, that's what I was wondering personally is so much of a firefighter's inventory is gasoline powered. Um, uh, just wildfire chainsaws, for example.
Mhm.
How are you gonna deal with that?
Yeah, again, we have exemptions for those public safety and wildfire fighting provisions.
It's a form you'll have to fill out.
Oh, before or after the fire burns the thing?
Minutes, minutes. Any other questions for Jessica, please? Jessica, Dina, thank you very much.
So can
Let
I
us move on
ask
to
one
the,
question of Jessica?
please.
Yeah.
So Jessica, on those exemptions, is it an exemption from the prohibition of using the equipment, or it's not a broad exemption from the reporting of using the equipment? They still have to track and report that they have the equipment and then when they used it, but they get the exemption from the actual word, the prohibition that's listed in the rule, correct?
Yes. The equipment would not need to be electrified to comply with the rule. We would still be requesting that reports be given as to what inventory exists and how it's used.
All right, thank you very much.
Let's move on to the Metropolitan Planning Organization agenda under reports, report of the chair. This is the status of my life. I found a ribbon cutting on a highway fun today. Used to be, I considered other things fun, but that's it was really the culmination of, for a lot of us, even in this room, 20 years of hard work to see those express lanes getting open up today. The governor, the director was there. Commissioner Stevens and I both spoke. I spoke on behalf of somewhat of this organization, but more on behalf of the I-25 coalition. And it really was a celebration of folks who have been involved over the last 20 years. It's an important piece of roadway done, but it's not done because PEL puts us at, or EIS rather puts us at 4 lanes, and so we will work to continue that. But it was a nice milestone that was seen today. And so that really is the report of the chair. It's just, we had fun in an I-25 ribbon cutting this morning.
Wind blowing, but fine.
Wind was blowing, but it was, yeah, it was blowing. Executive Director report, please. Suzanne.
Yeah, thank you. I have just a couple of things to talk about. One is that I wanted to talk about this contract amendment we've been working on for 60 plus, right? I think we've talked about it several times, where there's a van sitting on a lot and we're waiting for the contract, and DTR, we don't understand what's going on, and it was supposed to be repurposed. Well, I think we finally dug deep enough and got to the bottom of what's going on. We changed DTR staff sort of in the middle of all this, and apparently the DTR staff that said we could do all of this and repurpose it, that's not really anything they could legally do. So we had to sort of stop that. I don't know if it's illegal or not, but it just didn't follow the procedurals and the contracting. So all of that stopped, and so DTR is trying to honor that prior staff's commitments on the vehicle, but it's just taking time because they have to go back through all the paperwork and everything. So they're working through it, but they really are feeling that by the end of the year they'll have a contract in place and the van will be available. But I just wanted to let everybody know, because we keep sort of pounding on DTR a little bit about what's the problem. It's sitting there. We've been talking about this for a year, and that's really the issue. It's outside of their process, and they're trying to sort of make, a round hole fit in a square hole, so it's not working so well. So
Good news is the van will be 2 years used by the time they get it. You should be able to get a better deal.
There you go. That could be. I also wanted to let everybody know that we went out for an RFP that is for our TMO work and also for a TDM plan. We got 3 proposals on that. People are reviewing those proposals. Some people in this very room are reviewing those proposals. And then we'll be setting up interviews next week to start going through those candidates. So we're moving forward on the TMO and the TDM project. The last thing I wanted to say is that our January meeting is not the first Thursday. It is going to be the second Thursday. So it's January 11th. It is on the bottom of the agenda for tonight, but I do want to make everybody aware of that. So it's going to be the 11th instead of a week prior. So that is all I have.
Outstanding. Questions for Suzette, please. Thank you. Under number 8, agenda item 8 is the TAC report. It is written and in your packet. Number 9 is the mobility report that is written. Finance report is written. And the community advisory committee report is written and in your packet as well. On to agenda item 12, which is a Van Gogh update. Shane, please.
If I can click all the right buttons and make magic happen here. So thank you all for the time tonight. Just to give a quick update. Van Gogh, and I'll try to make this as brief as possible, but as well as give a brief overview of the program, just for those who are unaware of it as well. So Van Gogh has been in operation for nearly 30 years at this point.
Hold on just a second, we don't have your slides show up yet. Here we go. Sorry about that.
Okay.
We're up and running.
Okay. You're not going on my side, so if Alex can do it up, that would be awesome.
Okay, we got the nod. We're up and running officially.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, once again, I'm Shane. This is just going to be a brief intro into Van Gogh, kind of where the program stands and a little bit about the program as well. We can go to that next slide. So what is van pooling? For some people, this is a new idea. It's been around, from my understanding, since sometime around the 70s. It's basically shared commuting. So people pay a flat rate. We supply the van, we cover insurance, we cover maintenance, we cover the fuel. We even offer a guaranteed ride home program for people who might find themselves at work ill and need to go home, or some other emergency comes up and they can't take the van home that day. All for a flat monthly fare. It's generally 2 to 6 participants. Driving is generally shared. And we do have a few routes where there is a driver who really likes to drive, so everybody else just gets to chill and do whatever they want to on their way to work. It's another one of the main benefits of van pooling is that you don't have to drive every day. We had a route that ran for a very long time. We went to the tech center. And let me tell you, they truly appreciated the fact that they didn't have to make that drive every day. We still have routes going into Denver where it's the same thing that holds true. Next slide, please. So why is the NPO home of Van Gogh? From my understanding, it was handed over from the city of Fort Collins to the NPO ages ago. It definitely predates me. But it does meet a lot of the NPO's goals. Helps reduce ozone, helps reduce greenhouse gases, basically by reducing single occupancy vehicles on the road. Plus, the most major aspect of the program, in my opinion. Next slide. It is an obvious public-facing example of the NPO. These vans are hard to miss as they go down the road. So it's a visual representation, traveling the interstates every day, of each one of you in the council, the NPO, me, Fort Collins Maintenance, Greeley Maintenance, just as a whole, traveling down the road every day. A non-transit person would not know that there is necessarily an NPO or what an NPO does. So Van Gogh serves kind of as an impetus for conversation, allowing any public outreach a starting point for conversation, as many people have seen the van or have at least heard of the program. In addition, with the recent development of the NPO's TDM program, Van Gogh has been in operation, like I said earlier, for nearly 3 decades. So it's one of the longest running NPO programs and an integral part of any available option for that TDM program going forward. Next slide, please. So Van Gogh was not immune, and there was literally no pun intended, to COVID. As you can see here, in March of 2020, we had 45 active routes, 216 participants, around a 5% occupancy rate. and had a few new participants actually start that year. No routes were actually added. We technically ceased operation except for essential employees at the start of COVID. In 2022, we actually started 2 new routes and added more than 20 people. So there was growth. Here you can see 2023's numbers. We're sitting at active 20 routes, 76 participants, almost a 4% occupancy rate, which is technically basically our break-even rate. 14 still active participants who have started in 2023. We've actually added a new route this year. While the numbers aren't actually the greatest to look at, the one thing I will point out is in the 7 years I've been here, this has been the most stable year for the program, meaning we started the year and we kind of ended the year in the same place. While we have seen a lot of retirements, we're starting to see more Gen X and millennials start to move into the program. So kind of a shifting of the guard here, which while I'd like to see the numbers higher, I'm fine seeing stability as well. Next slide, please. Fleet. So anybody who knows anything about fleet at this point can see the supply chain at the bottom. I don't get there. Obviously an issue. Right now, we have 29 vans active. 20 of those are on routes. 9 of those we keep in reserves. Those are for if we have a new route that wants to start up and or if people have dropped off vans for service at one of our maintenance facilities. Making up 14 of those 20 routes are currently running on hybrids. We are in the process of trying to convert all of our routes to running hybrids. That will come on supply chains later. The CAFM certification is a Certified Automotive Fleet Manager certification. It's a 1.5-year program that I completed. After the 2-year program, I completed in a 1.5 years by our insurer. It just gave me a much clearer and better idea of how to manage the capital inventory that we have in our actual fleet. Something that was a weakness of mine, and I think has probably always been a weakness in Van Gogh as a whole. We maintain strong relationships with the City of Fort Collins and Greeley Maintenance. I actually just received back our annual survey. I haven't had a chance to compile all the info yet, but I will say that Greeley Maintenance was awarded an excellent 100% score of 100 excellent on both customer service and quality of service. Fort Collins was at 90%. That's exceptionally high. I'm very proud to work with the people of both Wood Street and Greeley Maintenance. They're fantastic groups of people, and they really treat our van as well. Supply chain. So we've been trying to purchase vans to rotate new vans out for probably pushing about 3 years at this point. And it has been slow, just like any supply chain issues. We just wait. We're currently waiting. We have 6 outstanding vans that we're currently waiting to get filled, which would round out those 20 hybrids that we'll get to get. So we'll see when those actually come through. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Next slide, please. Our participant annual survey. Every year, Van Gogh sends out a very short survey to all of our participants just to get an idea of how the program stands, what people are thinking, things like that. Customer satisfaction. This is probably one of my points. Customer satisfaction since I've been here has never dropped below 90%. I consider that almost epic in the aspect of you can't make everybody happy, so I'll take anything above 90%. It is the highest rankings in the program. Service has always been paramount to me. Van Gogh is the Van Gogh team, me and Barb, and the participants are a pretty tight-knit group of people. We know we can reach out to them. They know that they can reach out to us. It's a give and take quite well. Kind of like the vans themselves. They're their own little families and friends. You spend that much time in a van, you really get to know each other. Kind of spend enough time in this program, you really get to know those people as well. But how most people heard about Van Gogh? Number one answer would be from a friend, a family member, or coworker. Referrals are key. It's where we get our people from. The number 2 are the vans themselves going down the road. So yeah. The reason why most people choose to van pool, it reduces the cost of their personal vehicle. People don't have to spend money on brakes, gas, things like that. That has been consistent throughout my time here is the number one reason. Likely to recommend Van Gogh Van Pools to a friend or colleague. This is 83% of our participants state that they are likely to do so. I was able to see in the most recent survey that we actually had 81% of people had within the last 12 months mentioned the Van Gogh program to somebody who might be interested. I think that speaks highly to both the service we can offer and the interest that might be kind of hanging out there. Next slide, please. So before I move to questions, I just want to give another quick shout out because something else has happened very recently. Corey did a lot of work, and I would say arduous work, in helping get a subsidy program set up with the city of Fort Collins, which will launch in 2024, which will hopefully help us grow the program, as well as bring some more city of Fort Collins employees, CSU employees, and other residents of Fort Collins into the Van Gogh program. So thanks, Corey. With that, are there any questions I can answer?
Questions for Shane, please. Shane, thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Of course, my
I'm
pleasure.
sorry.
I would just say that you all should be very proud of this. This is a program of the North Front Range NPO that has been very successful for a very long time. People love this program. I mean, even during the pandemic, people like, you're not going to shut down, are you? We want to stay on the waiting list. I mean, people didn't really want to leave, and they really enjoyed this program. I mean, we've had people on there that have been in this program for 20 years or more, which is amazing. Which when Shane was saying people are retiring out, that's what's happening. And, you know, now they're retiring and now sometimes it's their children that are coming in, which is kind of an interesting dynamic. But this program also helps us get Federal Transit Administration dollars into the North Front Range NPO, which is another big win for us. So I would just say, and we don't use any of our federal transportation dollars to fund this program. So this is a huge win for us, and Shane does a great job on managing the program. So I just wanted to say I think you all should be very proud of this program, and that's something that you all are steering.
Very good. Thank you, Shane. Under the consent items, number 13 is the 2023 Q1, Q2, Q3 unaudited financials. Rachel, please.
Did you want it's just on consent? Did you want to say
Oh.
what about it?
Anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Okay. And if not, that's a nifty way to pick up time. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Commissioner Stevens, second by Councilor Malo to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That was a fine suggestion. Action items under number 14, 2024 officers election. Okay, at this time we elect a chair and a vice chair. It is traditional that the vice chair will move to this seat in about 90 seconds. No. But of course, it is at the pleasure of council what they decide to do. So at this time, I would like to open up nominations for the position of chair. Nominations for position of chair, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint Councilor Marlowe as the chair of the NPO for the next year.
Second. There's a motion and a second to appoint Councilor Marlowe. Any other nominations? Seeing none, Chair would entertain a motion to close nominations and elect Councilor Marlowe by acclamation.
So moved.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Here, John, this is yours.
Mr. Chair.
Vice, yes. The nominations for vice chair now are now I believe that our bylaws say that the vice chair must come from Weld County because it goes back and forth, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So at this time, Chair would open nominations for the vice chair position.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to so move to nominate Commissioner Olson for the vice chair.
You got promoted. You want this job?
No.
No?
I said vice chair. Counselor. Commissioner, vice, you're there.
Someday I want to do it.
Do that.
Maybe.
Councilor Olson's name is in nomination. Or any additional nominations for the position of vice chair? Seeing none, Chair would entertain a motion to close nominations and elect Councilor Olson by acclamation.
So moved.
So moved.
Motions and seconds all around. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Councilor Olson is your vice chair. In sincerity, which I get to every now and then.
Good for you.
I am truly honored to have served this last year as your chair. Thank you for the opportunity. My comment is the North Front Range NPO staff is second to none. So thank you, Suzette. It is unfortunate you will not be able to retire for 10 years.
We already talked about it.
But I appreciate staff very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Okay, agenda item 15 is the November 2023 TIP amendment, which is resolution 2023-22 on page 50 of your packet. Anna Rose, please.
Thank you. First, I want to note that the fiscal year 2024 to 2027 TIP is now effective. It went into effect on November 7th. So any amendments are to the current TIP, which is the 24 to 27 TIP. The November 2023 TIP amendment includes one revision request from Weld County, which is removing the roundabout at Weld County Road 74 and Weld County Road 33 from the TIP and returning the federal funds to the NFRMPO STBG pool. The 30-day public comment period for the November TIP amendment began on November 13th and will end on December 12th, and approval by the Planning Council is contingent on no negative feedback being received through the course of that public comment period. The TAC recommended Planning Council approval of the November 2023 TIP amendment at their meeting in November. And so now I will open it up for any questions.
Questions for Anna Rose, please.
What happens to the money that goes back into the pool?
That is in our next agenda item.
Oh.
So because of the timing of this, we were able to include that in our recommendations for the call for projects. So the process that we have outlined in the TIP is that so long as there's no waitlisted projects from the relevant call, so the call that that project was awarded in, the funds just go back into our pool to be awarded through our processes.
Additional questions for Anna Rose, please. Seeing none. Okay, the requested action is to approve the November 2023 Transportation Improvement TIP amendment to the FY 2024 through FY 2027 TIP. Is there a motion?
I would move to approve the 2023 TIP.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the resolution, essentially, the 2023 Transportation Improvement Program amendment to the FY 2024 through 2027 TIP. Is there further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, number 16. Are we on to 16 already? I tell you, I'm like Craig got my last meeting. Record time. So long as I don't have a mouthy new vice chair over here, I'll be out of here record time. All right, I'm sorry, Anna Rose. Back to sincerity. Discussion item number 16 is the 2023 call for projects, please.
I hate to burst your bubble, but this might be a long.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I'll sit back.
So tonight we will have the project sponsor presentations for the projects being recommended for funding through the 2023 call for projects. So first, just wanted to provide the updated funding estimates. These have been updated since the last time we discussed with Planning Council prior to the call opening. So the two I want to highlight is in the rolled column for STBG. It shows $1.5 million. That does include what was just approved of returning the Weld County funds into the STBG pool. So total, and then the carbon reduction program funds actually decreased based on the most recent estimates from CDOT. So just minorly, but we have about $24 million that we are looking to award in this call. Just wanted to show the total amount of requests that we received during this call. So we had received about almost $50 million in requests from this call, and we only had about $24 million to award. So this was a pretty competitive call, but we have a lot of great projects to go through today. So before I get into the project sponsor presentations, just wanted to give a brief overview of the recommended projects. We do have 13 projects which are being recommended for funding. And just as a refresher, the process for this is the scoring committee met in the end of October to review the applications, and the scoring committee is made up of our TAC members and project sponsors. The scoring committee makes a recommendation to TAC, and then TAC makes the recommendation to the Planning Council, who has the final say in awarding funding to these projects. So there are 13 projects that are being recommended for funding. So of the 13 projects, all of the 13 projects are within a quarter mile of at least one equity area, which is the map that I have shown on the screen here. And 53% of those recommended projects are within a quarter mile of an equity index area of a score of 3 or more. The next thing I wanted to briefly go over was the CMP analysis. This is something that we included new in the 2023 call for projects, and that was a requirement for any project that might be considered a capacity expansion project and that's outlined within the congestion management process, needed to complete an SOV analysis. And so that's just looking at the different types of strategies within each of these projects and how they align to the strategies within the congestion management process. And so there are a number of projects that are on what we call our congested corridors, and those are what are highlighted on the map here. And then as you can see, of the 13 projects, all of them had some sort of one of these tiers, the tier 1, 2, 4, or 5 within the CMP. And so that is looking at ways to offset the impacts of capacity expansion. And then the last is looking at the NFRMPO priority corridors. These are the corridors that the Planning Council has noted as the priority for the region. And so that's I-25, US 34, US 85, US 287, State Highway 14, and State Highway 392. And this was part of the 2050 RTPs when these were approved. And 5 of the 13 projects recommended for funding were projects on these corridors. And then last, looking at the performance measure analysis, we also require all project sponsors to fill out an impact to our federally required and regionally specific performance measures. And it is required that all projects support meeting the targets for one of these performance measure areas. And so you can see that most of the projects have stated that safety is one of the priorities or one of the components of the project, and then also system performance. So that is looking at system reliability or looking at congestion, truck travel time reliability, CMAQ emissions, and then traffic congestion. And then within the regional performance measure, the greatest amount of projects were impacting the travel time index. So that's looking at capacity on our regionally significant corridors. All right, with that being said, we will go ahead into the project sponsor presentations. And so the way that this will work tonight is we have it grouped by funding program. So the first funding program is going to be SCVG. We have some project sponsors that are online and some in the room. And we will ask for any questions to be held until the end of the funding program. So we'll allow for questions after each of these project sponsors have presented. One of the other things I want to note is that the recommendations from the scoring committee include a few different options. And so that is projects being fully funded, projects being partially funded, waitlisted, or unfunded. And so what I have on the screen here is anything below the line, that red line is waitlisted funding or waitlisted projects. And so in previous calls, we have had project sponsors present the waitlisted projects, but in keeping with the timing of the meeting tonight, we won't have the project sponsors present on those. For the waitlisted projects, I will give a brief overview of what those are. And then if there is any funding that comes into an NFRMPO pool, we go through an additional allocation process. And we have let project sponsors know if their project has been waitlisted and then is recommended for funding during that process, they will present the project at that time, which will also help because often our council changes. And so then the current council at the time will be able to make those approvals. So with that being said, we will go ahead and start with the first presentation. So this is City of Fort Collins. And we have Brad Buckman, who is online, who will present this project.
Good evening, Planning Council. I'm Brad Buckman, the Director of Engineering at the City of Fort Collins. I'm pleased to be joining you this evening. Can everyone hear me okay? Good, thank you. This is our College and Trilby Intersection Improvements Project. It's our #1 intersection improvements project in the city in terms of the safety need. This project will construct a second north and southbound left turn lane and channelize the existing north and southbound right turn lanes by constructing channelizing islands on College, receiving lines on Trilby Road, and sidewalks within the project extent. This project will correct a major existing safety deficiency at this intersection, which sees many vehicle crashes on an annual basis due to inadequate space, turning lanes, signalization, and inadequate bike and ped facilities. Next slide, please. So this gives a general aerial photo. This is a map of the proposed project, which again will construct channelizing islands on College, receiving lines on Trilby Road, and sidewalks within the project extent, as well as signalization improvements. This project will begin construction in 2024. Please let me know. Well, I guess questions will be at the end. So that concludes my slides.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Alex Donaldson with the City of Loveland.
So when you said questions at the end, you don't mean at the end of every presentation, you mean we need to?
At the end of the funding program.
Okay,
good evening, council members. I'm Alex Donaldson. I'm a civil engineer with the City of Loveland, and I am happy to talk to you today about our US 34 and 287 intersection improvement project. This is a project that has been long identified in the city as a key need, both in the city and at a regional level moving forward. We studied this on a couple of occasions, once in the 90s and then revisited our study in 2016. And we did find that we're tracking towards a poor performance future if we don't take steps now to improve the operational efficiency or operational standards at this intersection. This project will improve capacity, reduce delay, and will also enhance safety in this intersection. And again, the key need is to be able to meet the future projected demands. One important detail I want to touch on is that this project applied for funding in both the STBG as well as CMAQ grant pools. It was awarded STBG funding, which is why we're talking about it now. But it was not, it was waitlisted in the CMAQ funding. And so because of that, the city will continue to seek grant funding, both in future calls for projects and also in other grant opportunities. And in the meantime, we plan on delivering this project in phases. So we will use this funding to start the project, and we'll deliver it as funding becomes available. So here's an overhead photograph. This is from our previous study, and it shows the ultimate intersection. It adds double left turns and all of the key movements, so north-south as well as east and west. And then you can also see too, it adds right turn lanes that are separated from the through lanes, and it also increases the space that pedestrians have to use as they cross the intersection there and improve safety. And here is an example of what it would look like at street level looking southbound. As you can see, there's the double lefts, 2 through lanes, and then an island there that someone could use to cross the street in the right slip lane. And this will conclude the 287-34 intersection. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Paul Trombino with the City of Greeley.
Good evening, Council. Appreciate the time. I think we got to move to the next slide.
Yeah, I think I just want to click.
Oh, you want me to click? Okay, I'll show some. There we go. So 9th and 10th mobility improvements. This is a corridor we've spent quite a bit of time working on for the last couple of years almost now. And we're really focused on doing and improving the corridor to really make them a signature gateway corridor. They are that entranceway into our downtown area from 23rd to about 8th is the corridor, or 10th, give or take, on the segment. Both other corridors have, the intent is, as you can see here, we're approving a lot of multimodal options. There's not a lot of pedestrian crossings across either corridor. So we're gonna look to improve that. Overall, widen the sidewalks out, so we'll take it from 6 lanes to 4 lanes and use that to add quite a bit of landscaping and public art, lighting along the corridor, so they will really be that signature corridor that will draw people downtown. We do have a lot of schools on the south side, so there's a lot of movement with kids crossing both on 9th and 10th, and we'll be able to make quite a bit of improvements to really, as I would say, make it a place that's really livable, so for people to live, work, and play, so it really becomes an overall draw to the neighborhood. It does have a lot of safety issues on both corridors, has some condition issues along the corridors also, so we'll be making a lot of significant improvements along the corridor to really make them gateway features. Tentative schedule is, depending on funding, we'll do preliminary design. This is we've gone through a series of concepts. This is what we're proposing as alternative 1. And so where we keep the one-ways, and so the plan is to get into preliminary engineering in 24, final engineering in 25, and then construction in 26 and 27. So, and then the next slide just shows where the corridors sit overall. I think everyone's fairly familiar with them. They are an historically disadvantaged community area, so they're kind of right in that middle area for us. So we think this will add a lot of significant improvements overall to all the residents and businesses in the area. So that is all I have.
Next, we have Evan Pinkham with Weld County.
Good evening, Council. I'm Evan Pinkham with Weld County Public Works. So the project that we're bringing forward here today and would like to discuss is County Road 13 and County Road 50 intersection improvements. And this is a project we've had the opportunity to work with 2 agencies on this particular project. And with that, we're working with the town of Johnstown and Larimer County. And we're just happy to have them as partners on the project and funding partners for this project. So this intersection, we recently paved the section of County Road 13 north of this intersection within the last few years. And with that, it was a much needed improvement, but it's brought a lot of traffic to this intersection. Currently, this intersection is offset by about 600 feet. And with that offset, it brings a lot of accidents that are unnecessary. A lot of accidents that we're seeing are with fixed objects, which just indicates that people are really going to that T intersection on either side and hitting some of our barriers there. So looking at the map here, you've got the north side on the right side of the screen, south side on the left. What we're looking at doing, currently County Road 13 sits there on the south side of this and butts up against County Road 50. What we would be doing is basically aligning that with the westernmost portion of County Road 13 to meet up with County Road 13 there on the west side. At that intersection, we're looking at putting auxiliary turn lanes, which will help with traffic. The overall project's going to help with traffic flow, with safety, with air quality. And so we have a lot of benefits with this particular project. What we're looking at is getting additional right-of-way outside of what we need. That way, when Johnstown, starts growing a little bit further north, they're able to improve this easily to a 4-lane roadway on County Road 13.
We will be adding in a bridge there close to County Road 50, just south of County Road 50, and then also be at the basically straight portion of the roadway, going to be linking over to the homes that are currently accessing on County Road 13 and be cul-de-sacing on either end on County Road 13 where it was existing. That's the basics of the plan. We're going to be matching up with a section of pavement that Johnstown's looking at expanding to 4 lanes. So definitely a needed improvement in this area, especially with all of the growth outside of Johnstown and Larimer County in that area and in Weld County. So yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have after this section. Thank you.
And next we have Omar Herrera with the Town of Windsor.
Good evening, Council. Omar with the Town of Windsor Engineering Department. Good to see you tonight. I'll be presenting on the Colorado, get on that slide, Crossroads Intersection Improvements Project. This intersection bisects 2 significantly regional corridors, Crossroads and Colorado Boulevard. It's also located within approximately 2 miles of 2 of the MPO's priority corridors, namely Highway 34 and I-25. So we see a lot of overflow alternative routes come through this intersection when the highways interstates are busy. And so the project will consist of converting a existing signalized intersection into a multi-lane roundabout. The goal being to improve safety and the mobility through the corridor and reducing severe crashes. Obviously, roundabouts are much safer when it comes to intersections. The other benefit of this project is it's going to reduce congestion and traffic delays. During the current intersection experiences pretty significant delays during the PM and AM peak traffic times. And we've done some studies and the roundabout will work well for the next 20 years. And let's see, the next thing is, we are also widening the north and east legs to 4 lanes. The northeast corner of that intersection is currently under a lot of development, residential and commercial, multifamily. The town has an existing development agreement with the developer to partner and help fund those improvements. In addition, we've been making a lot of progress on this project. We're 90% complete with our design, and we're looking to target construction for late 2025, early 2026. So,
There are 3 projects that are being recommended for waitlisted for the SDBG program. So the first project is from the city of Evans, the 35th Avenue intersection project, which is the construction of north and south left turn lanes on 35th Avenue and westbound right turn lanes on 37th Street in Evans. The next project is a joint project between Fort Collins and Larimer County, which is the County Road 19 or Taft Hill Road improvements from Horsetooth to Harmony. And this is construction of additional through lanes, auxiliary turn lanes, intersection improvements, curb and gutter, race protected side path for pedestrian and bicycle lanes, median and stormwater. And then the town of Johnstown, Highway 60 and Weld County Road 19 signal intersection installation. So at this time, I will open it up for any questions for the project sponsors or about the waitlisted projects for the SCBG program.
question.
Yeah, I have a question for, I guess it's Brad Buckman from City of Fort Collins. Around the intersection improvement, I think is go back to that, College and Trophy. I definitely understand the safety improvements. I'm wondering if you could just elaborate on what kind of sidewalk additions are going to be I think there's not a lot of sidewalks in this area, so I just wonder how far sidewalks will extend and what that looks like.
Right. You can kind of see, great question, by the way. You can kind of see it on that map there. Basically, as you know, in that intersection, the sidewalks are almost non-existent in the intersection. So it'll basically extend through the project extent, and as you see on the map there. And right now, there's very much a lack of bicycle and pedestrian crossings and sidewalks in the area. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, that does. Is there any intention to like move those sidewalks, I mean, further towards some of that housing and I mean, to sort of complete that? Because it's great to have them at the intersection for crossing opportunities, but I just don't know if there's any intention to bring the sidewalks further down College or on Trilby.
Yes, there is, and in fact, in our pedestrian program, looking forward to 25 and 26 and 27, we do have projects to extend the sidewalks further down, as you can see there on College, but really Trilby going into the neighborhoods on Trilby, especially on the west side, but also on the east side. We do have projects to not only extend the sidewalks, but also connect to the existing trail system.
And can you just speak briefly about, so we have I don't know if we're calling them equity indicators or what's the term that we're using?
Equity index areas.
And equity index areas. Does this project meet any of those? Is it within an equity area?
Yes, Anna Rose, maybe you can help with that.
Yes, so I don't have any kind of like pointer, but the yellow dot on 287, so it's it borders 2 equity index areas of a score of 2 or more.
Okay, thank you.
Could you, on the waitlist project, was the Johnstown project marked as a safety project?
Yes, so within the SDBG program, the greatest amount of points goes to safety, and one of the things is with some of the projects that didn't score as well, didn't have like necessarily a history of fatal or serious injury crashes, or it's possible that it could have just been because of low volume roads, things like that. Just didn't end up scoring as well under those points.
Up to what point was the data pulled?
For the crash analysis, we used the most up-to-date data that we had at the time was 2016 to 2020.
Oh, okay. We've had one school bus crash and 2 near misses. That's why we put it in as a safety object. But if it doesn't show up because they were after that, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So why are we so far behind?
So there was a lag in the data from CDOT over the last few years for crash data. And so earlier this year, probably right around the time that this call opened, we did receive the last 2 years of data. So that was 2021 and 2022. But didn't have the time to be able to analyze that data before being able to use it for this process. So any project sponsors who had more up-to-date data, like full data sets, were allowed to use that to supplement the NFRMPO's data. But for anybody who didn't have those types of full data sets, we used the data that the MPO had.
So essentially, small towns with the have-nots, we don't get that data, and so we get axed out of the process.
We did have a few kind of like ways that we try to make sure to supplement that process. There was the option of using like surrogate locations for locations that didn't have a history of crashes necessarily. None of our project sponsors took advantage of that, but we did try to make sure that there was kind of also a balance between looking at the crash rates and then also like the proactive interventions. So looking at.
I just need to, because this is the primary traffic route between Johnstown and Milligan for school buses, it's rising high on the list in the community, and especially after the crash for the kids on board. And unfortunately, it doesn't make the data set until years afterwards.
Yeah.
That's. I guess I'll just have to blame the state again, right?
And, we are, we'll do an evaluation of the process of this call following it as well. And so making sure that the scoring criteria that we have is, equitable to the smaller versus larger communities as well. And so that's something that we can take into consideration for future calls is how do we make sure that, those lags in data aren't working against smaller communities.
Well, if you allow larger communities to supplement in the back end, I've got like a half an FTE that can work on this. And so I'm completely outdone when it comes to the Lovelands and the Fort Collinses.
And I think one of the things that I think we all struggle with, I struggled with is when I was in the region too, is this money goes to, you have to have a death before you can fix it.
Yeah.
Or you got to have major accidents before. There's very little room for proactive analysis. Increased traffic, increased school buses, increased, I'm speaking to his because but there's a lot of things in our communities that have those where we know that we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop kind of mentality in all of our communities. And we got to figure out a way, and I've said this at staff, we got to figure out a way to be proactive with our faster safety and our intersection safety money. Not always looking for reactive, but how do we prevent it from someone dying? There's a bunch of kids getting hit on a school bus is pretty serious. But I'm not saying that the call was wrong. Just saying there's an issue there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a way for communities to, do we have to wait on this data, or can they provide something like that's a pretty horrible event? So is there anything supplemental that communities can provide to, or is the criteria kind of set and we can't?
Yes. So any community is able to provide the local data. And I think sometimes what the issue is, maybe you have that fatal data that's pretty cut and dry of like what those numbers are. And I think probably every community has that, but also being able to take those specific serious injuries, which is a specific definition, and to ensure that we're looking at the same types of crashes across the board. I think that's kind of where some of that, the other agencies might not have that kind of data, or the full data sets of those specific level of crashes, and so would rely on the data that the NFRMPO was able to get. And so the data issue has definitely been an issue, and unfortunately with 2021 and 2022, or 2020 and 2021 specifically, there was a lot of issues with getting that crash data. Hopefully moving forward, that will be better. We were able to get 2022 data a lot sooner and a lot more complete data sets, and so hopefully continuing to fix that process.
Additional questions to project sponsors? Omar, I frequently come north on County Road 13 and I go up to Crossroads to go over to get to church. I frequently use that stoplight as an excuse for being late to church. You put a roundabout in there, I'm going to need an excuse. Sit down. Okay, any serious questions?
I just want to say, I know a lot of these intersections, they've been on the list for a long time. Not serious, I didn't say Siri.
You said.
But they are very, I like the projects that, I mean, I remember back in the day, I was talking about these projects 8 years ago, so I'm glad to see some of the work finally moving forward.
Anna Rhodes, this is for our information and presentation. I'm assuming we'll take action in the January meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so the next program is the carbon reduction program. And so the first project that we have is from the city of Loveland and Alex Donaldson.
Hello, council members, I'm back. This time to talk about our TAP corridor adaptive signal project. So this is to install a corridor of traffic signals that work in concert together, which is what an adaptive signal corridor is. It connects Southwest 23rd Street all the way to 57th Street on Taft Avenue in the city of Loveland. It also includes, and you'll see on the map here in just a second, a little bit of an extension on either direction of US 34 to make sure that that corridor is all working together nicely. This is our fourth adaptive signal corridor in Loveland. The other three have proven to be helpful in managing congestion as well as capacity improvements in terms of the effectiveness of our intersections. And that this adaptive corridor will also continue to do so. It will reduce delay and allow for more sophisticated handling of the traffic volumes that we are predicting to come to us in the future. So here's a picture. You can see it is the purple corridor there. Our existing corridors are the red and the green that you can see on the east side of town. And that concludes the adaptive signal. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, council members.
The next project will be presented by Marilyn Hilgenberg from the city of Loveland, and she is virtual.
Good evening. My name is Marilyn Hilgenberg. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I am the Open Lands and Trails Manager for the City of Loveland, and I have the honor to present to you guys the Wilson Avenue Multi-Use Path Crossing Project. This is the construction of 7,685 feet of a detached multimodal trail along Wilson Avenue in Loveland. It would go from 29th Street north up to 43rd Street and then east to Glen Isle Drive. This project is really about improving pedestrian and bicycle safety in these two busy corridors along a stretch that has had 3 recent pedestrian fatality accidents. The next slide kind of gives you a picture on the map of where we're talking about. It's roughly 1.5 miles corridor. Currently, our recreation trail loop, the dotted green line, runs through a natural area and through a neighborhood, but it crosses many intersections as it meanders through that neighborhood. This corridor would give us a detached trail sidewalk down 43rd and then all the way over to Wilson. It also drives pedestrian traffic to signalized crossings at 43rd Street, at 35th Street, and 29th Street, in addition to having crossings at the couple other crossings in the middle. Currently, the last slide shows the current condition that we have out there. The majority of trail and sidewalk in this area is 4 to 5 feet. It's very inadequate for the speed of traffic and the lanes that are running by. The 10-foot wide would improve safety for multimodal that we use through this corridor. And one other consideration in this area is that this trail is a connector to regional trails. Our 21-mile trail system is a segment of it, but these improvements will significantly improve this segment of it that leads to other regional trails in Fort Collins and ultimately our connections to Berthoud and Johnstown. There's an addition of 3,000 to 6,000 new residential units going in just west of this intersection. And having that safe connection at the lights will make a significant difference. Appreciate your opportunity to apply.
And the next project will be Joshua Ma from the city of Fort Collins. And he is online.
Hello. Is my camera not working? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello? Okay. Sorry. I don't think my
Yes.
camera's working, but
It's okay, we
Joshua
can't see
Mom,
you.
Okay. I'm Joshua Mom, the grants administrator with the City of Fort Collins Transport. This is our bus stop upgrades project to upgrade our bus stops to be fully ADA compliant, kept in a state of good repair and accessible for all. Upgrades to bus stops will include updates to, in addition, repair and replacement of infrastructure and amenities, including concrete pads, shelters, bike racks, benches, and trash cans. Program eligibility requirements limited us to specific roadways and intersections, but these are some of our most key stops along regionally significant corridors with high traffic and ridership. 6 of these stops are along US 287, which is an MPO priority corridor and a Colorado freight corridor, which serve as some of our most historically disadvantaged areas. You can see on the map. We want to ensure that these stops are safe, accessible, and provide a comfortable waiting environment for our riders. The majority of these stops will require right-of-way acquisition, both locally and from CDOT, which can be challenging and expensive. But the City of Fort Collins has a goal to have all of our bus stops to be 100% ADA compliant by 2026. This project, along with another round of upgrades we recently completed, will help us cross over the 90% threshold, accomplishing our goal. Yeah, that's what we have.
Thank you. There are 2 projects that are being recommended for waitlisted under the carbon reduction program. The 9th and 10th Street Mobility Improvements Project that was presented earlier. They applied for 3 funding programs and are being recommended for funding under 2 of them, with waitlisted under the carbon reduction program. And then the second waitlisted project is the Taft Hill Crossing Improvements Project from the City of Fort Collins, and that is designing and constructing bike and ped crossing improvements at Taft Hill Road and Imperial Drive and Brixton Road, and then construction of a 2-way side path from Imperial to Michigan. I will open it up for any questions about the carbon reduction program projects at this time.
Oh, Commissioner Stevens, sorry.
Yeah, so with the program, with the Adaptive Signals program in Loveland, can we see the map again? I'm kind of curious of which, those are the corridors that have that now?
Yeah, so the red and the green dots, those are existing corridors within the city right now. The purple dots that you see mostly in the center of the screen there, those would be the new corridor that would be installed as part of this grant.
Thank you. Just curious, because, I travel around that area, so kind of, I love that kind of technology that helps with that traffic flow. And then with the project, with the bus stop upgrades for City of Fort Collins, how many bus stops so the total project cost is only $650,000. How many bus stops can you make ADA compliant with that much money? It seemed like a lot to me. It seems like a lot of bus stops.
We're looking at about 15 with this grant, just because we're trying to cushion for how much the right-of-way is going to cost, but yeah, somewhere around there.
So there's no, so obviously you don't have the right of way yet, and you said you have to acquire that, and that'll be additional cost, or did you say that you think you could work out a deal with CDOT on that, or can you explain that a little more?
Yeah, that'll be within the money we would get from this grant if we were awarded it. It was
Okay,
built
so
into.
$650,000 for 15 bus stops and the right of way?
The whole city.
No, I mean, that seems like, so are we mostly talking kind of like curb cut kind of I mean, what makes them, what's stopping them from being ADA compliant right now? I mean, are these just kind of, I mean, I would think if you're doing 15 with that little money, they don't need a lot to make them ADA compliant? Is that right?
Well, we need to acquire the right of way to build the concrete pads, which would make them ADA compliant. And then if we wanted to add on other amenities, yeah, so like right of way acquisition, we're estimating 20 to 25,000 per stop. And then some of the concrete can get expensive as well, but.
Okay, no, I mean, this seems like a good deal.
There's never a good deal.
Right.
Hopefully.
This is it.
City.
Thank you.
I can't tell if you're asking if it's too little or too much.
No, I'm asking, like, it seems like too little, like
Oh, okay.
$650,000
You're saying
to
it's
fix
not enough.
15 bus stops, like, you know, it just seems like not a lot of money, I guess. Yes. No, it doesn't, it
You're
definitely
making me
seems.
think I should have asked for more.
Right away.
What did you say? You said he'll ask for more.
No, that wasn't what I was offering, I'm sorry.
Now you're pushing it, pal.
What was his name again?
So, if it would be helpful, we do have their cost estimates that were included in the application, and those can be.
I mean, I
are
believe
available
them,
and can be made
I just feel like everything is so expensive now, anything you can do for like around $500,000 and 15 of anything that involves concrete and right of way, that seems like.
And that's very minimal. I mean, when you look at ADA improvements and the designs for those, a lot of it's retrofit, they gotta fit the existing, and so it's not it's work, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of work, but they're usually not super expensive unless you're redoing it all.
Right.
And they're only doing one location, they're not like doing all four corners or something like that, so.
Okay.
The right of way must be minimal.
Yeah, it's just enough to put the curb or get the sidewalk in to get the ADA.
It's curbing mostly.
Yeah, just labor and I don't know, still seems.
And concrete.
Right, and concrete, which is expensive. Okay, all right, fair enough. I don't disbelieve anyone. I just wanted clarity, so thank you.
All right. The next funding program is the CMAQ program. So the first project will be presented by Paul Trombino, City Attorney.
Thank you. So appreciate the time again. So this project, US 34, is obviously to begin transit connection between Greeley and Loveland, ultimately the Loveland Mobility Hub. And so, so this really sets the stage for us to really get that line. So it's really starting at UNC. And I'm gonna flip to the map because it might be a little bit easier to see. So we'll start at UNC, probably in 26. And we have other connection points along that way to get out to the Loveland Mobility Hub. And then as the merge project and our mobility hub at Center Place comes into place, that would become obviously one of our key connections. And then UNC becomes a node off of that. So it would be connections between two main mobility hubs overall. I do want to say thanks to the NPO staff, CDOT, and obviously the city staff. We spent a lot of time talking about this, and so we're excited to get this started. So subsequent potential improvement, we think we'll get started in January for rolling stock because that'll take about 18 months or so. So that's the project.
The next project will be presented by Brad Buckman with the City of Fort Collins.
Hello again, Planning Council. Appreciate the time this evening. So this is our Power Trail Grade Separated Crossing project, and it's our #1 project of this type for the city. It will design, acquire necessary right-of-way for, and construct the trail underpass for the Power Trail crossing at Harmony Road. This project will correct a dangerous current condition at Harmony Road where bicyclists and pedestrians come off the Power Trail to cross a busy 6-lane arterial at Harmony to get back onto the trail, which is a major north and south trail corridor for the city. Next slide, please. And so this shows a map of the project and the location of where the underpass is to be constructed, where the proposed grade separated crossing circle is there. As you can see, this area of the city has 3 schools and lots of residential housing in the vicinity of the project. In this past year, we unfortunately had a fatality in this area involving a car and a bicyclist, and this project would mitigate those types of incidents in the future and move us towards our closer towards our Vision Zero goal. I'll be happy to answer questions at the end. Thank you.
And the next project is presented by Evan Pinkham. Welcome.
Good evening again, Evan Pinkham with Weld County. So this time here we're talking about a project that's basically just south of here on County Road 37 and State Highway 392. This is a project that's been on our safety list for a long time as far as needing improvements. It's an intersection project. Currently, there's no turn lanes at this intersection. Basically, traffic on the that's going northbound into the intersection builds up and backs up quite aggressively in the peak hour, and it causes a lot of delay. And with that delay, you have vehicles standing still that are emitting exhaust, which comes to the fact that this project helps a lot with attributing to reduction in air pollution. And it's not only a safety project for us, but it's also an air quality project. So this intersection, along with many other intersections on 392, is kind of riddled with issues with accidents, and the fixes here that we're looking at include basically adding auxiliary turn lanes on 392 for left-hand traffic going southbound and northbound. The project will touch one bridge on State Highway 392. We'll need to do some widening on that particular bridge, but we are able to avoid another bridge to the north of the project by reducing the speed limit there on County Road 37. Also included in the improvements we're looking at for eastbound traffic, a deceleration lane for traffic going southbound, and then also turn lane slots for traffic that'll be entering 392 going westbound and eastbound from County Road 37. So we're happy to bring forward this intersection project and CMAQ. Sometimes these projects don't get a lot of love in this category, so we were very happy to be in kind of that funding pool and be happy to answer any questions here at the end on this particular project. So thank you.
The last project being recommended for funding under CMAQ is the 9th and 10th Street Mobility Project. I will not make him come up and present that project again. And so last we have several waitlisted projects that I will briefly go over for the CMAQ program. The first is Fort Collins' purchase of 2 battery electric buses. The second is the Loveland US 34 and 287 intersection improvements project, which Alex presented earlier. Next is the Crossroads in Colorado intersection improvements project presented by Omar under the SCBG program. The next project is the Johnstown intersection of Colorado Boulevard and Roosevelt Boulevard, which is the installation of a roundabout at that intersection. Next is the Loveland Colt bus expansion project, which was the purchase of 3 diesel hybrid buses. And then the last project is Johnstown intersection improvements at Highway 60 and Colorado Boulevard, which is to widen the intersection to allow for better traffic flow and accommodate larger signal poles. I will open it up now for any questions about the CMAP program.
Questions on CMAP? Okay, thank you. Next.
Okay. So the last funding program is the Transportation Alternatives Program. And so these projects were scored and reviewed by the NOVA Bike and Ped Collaborative. And so the first project, there's one project being recommended for funding under this program, and Alex Donaldson with the City of Loveland will present on that.
Yeah.
Well, again, council, your bookends for tonight. Thanks again for the time. I appreciate it. This last project I wanted to talk about was the Garfield bike route enhancements. Currently, the MPO has identified as part of the active transportation plan a regional active transportation corridor that runs roughly north and south through the city of Loveland as part of it along the BNSF rail line. And the city is in a great position that we have a really nice loop around the city, but up until now there hasn't been a good regional level bicycle asset that gets people from those regional trails into the downtown core of Loveland. This project, it will build a buffered bike route on Garfield Avenue, which will connect to those other regional active transportation corridors, allowing people on bicycles from other parts of the region as well as around the city to access the downtown core. This will also connect via existing bicycle infrastructure to those regional active transportation corridors. Here is a map. As you can see here, the red line down at the bottom, that is existing bicycle infrastructure on First Street that connects to the dashed green, which is our rec trail, which is part of a regional active transportation corridor. The blue and purple area is the new proposed bicycle route. And lastly, I have for you a section that shows the existing condition on Garfield Avenue, which is sharrows as well as parking. This project is not planning to change curves too dramatically, and so you can see on the bottom there that everything lines up vertically, but we've added a buffer as well as the bike lane by reducing the widths available for parking as well as the through lanes. And since I'm the only project, should I stay up here to answer questions on TA, or should I head back down? I'll let you decide.
Let me just quickly
Okay.
review the
Sure.
project which is being recommended for waitlist. So the second project that was applied for under this program is from Fort Collins, which is Mason Trail Crossings. And this is the design, acquisition, and acquisition of right-of-way and construction improvements to the at-grade crossings of the Mason Trail in Fort Collins, at Prospect Road, Spring Creek Trail, Harmony Road, and the Southeast Frontage Road. So we'll open it up for any questions about the TA program.
Questions? Thank you. Okay, again, we will take action. Somebody online?
Oh, never mind.
Okay.
We're good.
We will take action on these projects in the January meeting.
Yes, so just one other quick note that I want to make on this.
And Rose, you see I'm ahead of time.
I'll be quick. TAC will make their recommendation on the projects at their meeting later this month, and then Planning Council will make that recommendation in January. I just wanted to note that next year in 2024, we will look at awarding funding for the state Multimodal Transportation and Mitigation Options Fund program. So just keep that in mind as we move forward, that will be an option also for some of the waitlisted projects. Could think about applying for funding through that program as well.
How much money do we have in that program?
That is a very good question.
Because it sounds like they're redoing some of the criteria or something like that?
So, yes.
Yeah.
So with the original estimations, we probably would have about $1.5 million per year, give or take.
Who's giving and who's taking?
Me.
I mean, yes, who's taking? Yeah, all right.
But can I ask one more question?
That's just us, yes.
Yeah, so how do we think that's gonna change? I mean, what do we anticipate? Do we have any thoughts on, like, are we gonna have less money? Are we gonna have more money?
I really, it's hard to say. there hasn't been really anything set in stone as far as what that's going to look like. So we have the planning estimates that were provided last year, but
Is that TC that's doing that?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, well, we want more money.
Okay.
And I think what there's bus standing and a source of funding is, by my understanding, for the consent agenda.
That's what I heard.
The amount that my understanding is the amount the MPOs get would be separate from that.
Okay.
But then I think the other thing that we want to make sure before we go into a call for projects is any of the like match reductions, eligibilities. And so that was one of the reasons why we decided not to include that in this call for 26 and 27, just because we want to make sure that everything is finalized before we award those funds.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And I think that at the last STAC meeting, there was a recommendation. So this is all the program distribution that STAC members went through. We talked about what criteria do we want to recommend for the MMOF bucket of money. And so I think all of that is still coming to the transportation.
So what is the additional criteria that was suggested to be added?
Or you asked me, it's like,
So there was-
it was like 60 plus, people that are ages 60 plus, and I think there's people with disabilities that were added.
So we took a transit portion out that we didn't feel, a lot of the folks didn't feel was something that could be utilized and scored very well. And we moved it, because one of the criteria for MMOF is 65 plus.
Okay.
We had 0 points on 65 plus. So we get that, I think we moved that up to 10.
5 or 10.
5 or 10,
Oh, okay.
and we reduced some other numbers to rebalance the scoring criteria. But we moved it up into safety and 65 plus, the stack did. And the argument did increase
Yeah, it increased the amount that,
by like 1.6%.
a little bit.
Oh.
But it was better than a poke in the eye.
Coincidentally.
Yeah.
More is better than less.
Well, I tried to get it all, and they did, Dr. Clark didn't float with me.
Well, I appreciate that, thanks.
Thank you, Anna Rose. Okay, onwards to council reports. We begin with the Transportation Commission report. Commissioner Kelly, please.
How you doing on timing?
Well, I tell you, I could pick up a couple of minutes right now.
Okay.
He's a radio guy.
So 3 weeks ago, I was on my second commissioner meeting. We talked budget. We had a presentation from Front Range Passenger Rail, which there's a lot of discussion going on. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer that stuff. But there's a Front Range Passenger Rail presentation next week that anybody can get to. I think it's on Wednesday. It's a webinar. Thank you. We also we started discussion on pricing related to the broadband fiber programs to get fiber out to the hinterlands. And there's a lot of changes going on there. I think they have already reduced the price that they're thinking about charging by 90%. How that happened, I'm not exactly sure, but there's still further discussion to be had because people don't like recurring monthly fees that they're proposing. The one thing, and I've spoken about it a couple times today, but there was a 1601 interchange that was approved by commission that's down south, Crystal Valley by Castle Rock. And it was interesting because the policy directive indicates that you need to reduce traffic by 3%. The proposal didn't meet 3%, but in the procedural directive, you're allowed to have intent and do the best job that you can to meet that 3%. And the applicant was doing that, trying to put in any multimodal transportation options that they could to reduce traffic. And even though they didn't meet the 3%, commission approved it. And that's my quick report.
Questions for Commissioner Kelly, please. Thanks, sir. CDOT Region 4 update. Heather, you still with us?
Hi, everyone. It's Josie Thomas. Heather's not able to be here tonight. She did have some family commitments. And so, of course, I offered to step in and support her here tonight. So I would like to just kind of start out. I know Heather would want me to share her sincere sentiments with regard to seeing many of your smiling faces today at the I-25 ribbon cutting. It was such a fantastic event, which included a visit from our governor, Jared Polis, CDOT's executive director, Shoshana Liu, elected officials, our previous CDOT Region 4 director, Mr. Johnny Olson, the wonderful Northfront Range staff, thank you all for coming, and a lot of community partners, project team members, and many, many more. It was a very windy, a bit cold, but a fantastic event, and I was so excited to see you all there. Without a doubt, this project could not have been possible without all of your guys' support and from the support from our communities along the corridor. It's truly a milestone, not just for us here at CDOT, but for everyone who's traveling along the corridor. So I just want to say from all of us here at Team CDOT, thank you so much for your unwavering support for this incredibly important project. We couldn't have done it without all of you. Now I'm going to talk a little bit logistics on I-25. For segment 6, from Berthoud to Johnstown, the express lanes are open, so drive them. The segments 7 and 8, the express lanes are expected to open on December 15th, so very soon. When it comes to those express lanes and the tolling associated, all fees will be waived during the initial test period. And drivers, like I said, we're encouraging you to try them out while they're untold. And I guess the anticipated tolling will begin in 2024, but I don't know when in 2024. So stay tuned for that. And a little safety tip from me as well. Just make sure that when you are driving through them that you're obeying the posted speed limit signs. We want everyone to be safe. Do not cross over the solid white lines, and make sure that you're entering and exiting at the designated areas only, which you guys know are clearly marked with the white dotted lines. And that's all I got tonight. Thank you guys so much.
Too complicated. Thanks, Josie. Okay, your staff report is written. CTIO report is written. I-25 coalition report will be brief. Had a good crowd last night on I-25 coalition, largely in anticipation of the ribbon cutting today. It was interesting to hear Abra and Chris give their last reports on this project, kind of a passing of an era. Of course, we'll get Abra as we move south onto 5 now, and it's pretty obvious that the focus of the I-25 coalition is moving south. So I think that coalition will continue to operate with the kind of tenacity and focus that it has in the past, and it's been fun to get a win, and we'll look for others. So that's the I-25 coalition report. NAPME, Commissioner Stevens.
NAPME, we met on November 30th. We had a report from Alex Gordon on transit in the North Front Range. So that was great to, because I think sometimes that can be a little Denver centric. So it was good to let them know that we're also working on transit up here. We are working on creating a public accountability dashboard. So that will include, when we do start funding projects, the ozone reduction for each project. We are hopefully will be done with, kind of figuring out what kind of criteria we want for these projects. In hopes that we will start like having applications come in and that we'll have a process for people to, because we have a lot of money right now. I think there's close to, I don't remember, there's 7.5 million or something. Huh? Like 7.5. I think there's more like 14 million. Oh. So there's a decent amount of money, and so right now I would say that we're looking at primarily transit, BRT, pedestrian and bike projects. People who are eligible have to be eligible, or entities that are eligible also have to be eligible for CMAQ funding. there is a lot of desire to have projects that are located in or that support DI communities, and and documented outreach to engage with DI communities to address their needs. So not just that the project has to be located in a DI community or serve a DI community, that you have to have had outreach to say, you know, with the residents to understand what kind of needs they have in that community. So, you know, do they really want a sidewalk there, or would they rather have, you know, a bike lane? I don't know, but sometimes having those conversations are really important. So we will, you know, we're not sure when, but hopefully we will have those evaluation criteria pretty much done, I think, in January. We don't have a meeting in December. So anyway, stay tuned, because I think that there'll be a lot of projects that we have here that would qualify. So.
Commissioner, did you mention, I'm sorry, when is the call for projects open?
We don't have that yet.
Okay.
So it will likely be next year, I would say. Hopefully, you know, I can't imagine it's gonna happen before mid-year next year, but
We're getting close.
I think we're getting close, which is nice.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Have you talked about a match rate on the money? But
We have discussed the match, and, you know, we're kind of, we don't want communities that are, you know, is it MMOF that has different matches for different communities?
Yes.
We've thought about a model like that just because we know that there's some communities that are smaller and don't have the match opportunities, or some kind of waiver process that you can say, well, it's a 20% match, but if you have, you know, need, or you can't hit that match, then you could go through this waiver process. So some kind of process that would allow communities that are smaller or have less funds available to still be able to apply for the dollars. So that hasn't been worked out yet, but I think it's being contemplated.
Other questions for Commissioner Stevens? Thank you. Okay, Front Range Passenger Rail District Mayor and Councilor.
Councilmember Olson and our Vice Chair Olson and I should say now, did our annual retreat in Denver on the 30th and the 1st. Largely went over accomplishments from the previous year, and well, more so what we need to do next year to be advantageous on the ballot next November. We were joined by the Governor's Chief of Staff, Lisa Kaufman, and also we did the eval of our current general manager, who will maintain in his spot and also received a raise. So kind of the key takeaways, I wish I had the timeline. I brought it with me. Unfortunately, I don't have an electronic copy of it, but I could take a picture. But there's several steps we need to hit in the upcoming year, and the major one being a no or no-go, and I believe it's mid-April. Yeah. Of course, I have my opinions on all this. I think we all do, but I think it was largely a productive retreat. We didn't always see eye to eye. I think Johnny and I did a lot of the time. The NPO North Front Range definitely did, but I think there are some ongoing issues of what equity really is that I don't think I came away feeling that was really addressed properly. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, we got a meeting on the 11th.
Yes, a big meeting on the 11th.
And the route has been determined. So we'll be voting that route in on the 11th, and it is the 287 alignment. Shocker to anybody in the room. I didn't see that coming at all. But yeah, so we'll be doing that votes on the 11th, and then also some other votes. But
I think station location.
Location. There's 9. They have really like 9 cities. And one of the things that I think I took away from that last meeting, it was the first time, because we've been struggling with passenger rail, commuter rail, you know, high-speed rail, right? That's been ongoing, and we've been batting this around for a year. Mm-hmm. But I think this meeting sort of settled me on, and they called it intercity passenger rail, which is what Europe has, what everybody has, right? It's not the high speed, it's intercity passenger rail. 9 cities have been picked, but not a location. And that's still got to be through. The thing about all this, and Will, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to be going to a vote in November, but our SDP and our EA, and none of that will be done.
No.
So
That's correct.
operation, we won't have a person to operate it. We won't have negotiations with the tier 1 railroads. So it's a little bit scary to folks like us that have been through this process with the Northwest Rail, that was all EIS, all discussed for 8 years, and then 1 million to 10 million with the tier 1 railroad for use. But that's all gotta be worked out, sightings, speed of sightings, all that. So there's a lot of work. And if we go to a ballot initiative, this is our fear, in April, we say, yes, we're gonna go because we got our financial plan, we got everything done. We go to the voters and we don't have any of that sort of decided in November, it's gonna be a tough sell. That's sort of the discussion we all sort of had.
So have you talked about like the boundary that would be on the ballot?
No. So
they don't.
That's a statutory adjustment because that was drawn.
So
I
we do have right now, there's the Front Range Passenger Rail with, I think, Senator Winters has a cleanup bill that she's sponsoring for us. Am I correct to say that?
Right.
And we were asked not to muddy that bill this year with Weld County, because Adams County is in the same boat.
Yep.
Right? And I was talking to Julie Duran Malika, and she's in the same boat. And she's like, Adams County is not even in this area. And I'm like, neither are we. So there's gonna have to be some heavy discussions, I think, in the near future. They know our concerns, we voiced it. But not sure where it's gonna go.
With regard to stations, so like the cities have been determined, but the station locations haven't. Is that up to the cities to like find that and get the right, acquire the right?
The city's been picked, I think. Fort Collins,
Loveland,
Longmont, Boulder,
Denver, Castle Rock,
and
Pueblo.
No, one in Springs.
One in Springs.
One in Springs and one in Pueblo.
But they say in conjunction with the municipality. So I think the ultimate control of the station, the location would be with the FRPR, but I can't imagine how we would be able to do that without support from the municipality.
Yeah, no, they'll be working really close with the communities on where those are.
A lot of that's gonna come down to negotiations with the railroads too, from Denver to the south and Denver to the north.
Yeah, because it's all one of the criteria for picking a route was existing route. No new route. So existing route was one of the top criteria. In the BNSF, obviously for us, up on 287 coming up through Boulders, the BNSF. Santa Fe, BNSF, some down south too, and then there's a UP line past Springs. So all the tier 1, I can tell you, BNSF, UP, and Amtrak sit on our board. They're on our board.
Yeah.
They're not voting members, but they're board members.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions by directors that weren't expressed, that we all have behind the scenes. And Johnny just with Adams, there's some frustration up there too. I don't want to, I think we're all thinking the same thing. Is this really at all realistic to be able to hit by next November? Given the amount of sentiment already there, plus all the unknowns, it's definitely going to be an uphill battle. That's all I have.
Additional questions? Thanks, Will and Johnny. Host council member reports. Mayor Pro Tem Hyde, please.
Well, thank you all for detouring your way to Eaton.
My fault.
When you come back in October, hopefully everything's done. We've got some fun things happening here in Eaton. We did pass in November a 1% sales tax initiative for our roads. So all of that goes directly to fixing roads, which is really exciting. And then we also received another $1.5 million grant with DOLA to match our CDOT grant. So when you come back again, we are working on a whole new downtown streetscape, which will include new parking, all new sidewalks, lots of fun things. You check out our pictures over there. And then with that also includes was a former elementary school just to the west here, and that's been We've recently changed the zoning for it, so hopefully we can sell that piece of property to include some more things for downtown development, some apartments, maybe a restaurant, some fun new things happening down here. And in conjunction with that, we're starting a DDA and have our first meeting with heirs next Monday. So lots of big things all happening at the same time, but I'm really excited. So thank you all for joining us. Grab another cookie on your way out, and see you again soon.
Thank you for hosting us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, again, a reminder is our next meeting is January 11th. If there are any meeting agenda topics, please get those to Becky and or Suzette.
I have one more thing, and Alex
Damn,
just,
I'm so
I'm
close.
sorry. Alex just said in the chat, and I forgot to say this, that we did get a $500,000 grant. Did you want to talk about that?
No,
The CIDP?
CDIP?
Yeah, we were approved for the FRA for the corridor identification development program, right, which comes with a $500,000 grant. And we need to finish our service development plan, plus choose the railroad operator.
And the nice part about it is a catalyst in the country as the model. We've been sort of recognized as the model in the country. And it puts us in a really good position for federal FLRA grants.
Great. Adjourning my final meeting 6 minutes early.
Thank you.
I want to thank the chair.
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
This is Denver, right? Yeah, I don't know if I want to.
Oh, he's very.
I don't know if I want to. I mean, I've had.
Right now it's just
What else?
stuff in the back, and then they all left.
Nice to meet you.